Hey champions, superstars and game changers, Hung Lee here again, and welcome to another presentation where we're going to be delving into the topic of how to flip a $10 million business in 10 months without any capital, connections or credibility. And yes, I understand you may be thinking, oh my god, Hung, like that sounds absolutely insane, that's one heck of a big bold claim, and yes, it sure is, I completely stand by that. However, the purpose of today's presentation is to give you a winning game plan that lives up to this big bold promise. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I want to go ahead and ask you a question. That question is, have you ever felt that building a business is 10, 30, 50 times harder than what you thought in comparison to when you originally started your business? You know, like you're getting pulled left, right and center to do the next Facebook ad strategy, Google AdWords tactic, SEO this, and next thing you know, you have to bring this particular product to the marketplace and you're just pulled in all these different directions. And today's presentation will be able to help you alleviate some of that struggle. And to the point you feel like. So here's what you will learn today. Firstly, how to ride the $12 trillion wave while others keep chasing the next shiny object. By shiny object, I'm referring to pretty much every fad, every tactic that's put out there on the marketplace that has no solid business principles attached to it or no solid strategic approach to being able to maximize that particular shiny object, so to speak. We'll definitely eradicate that from today onwards. 4 stages to creating unlimited wealth, even if you have no or very little capital, connections or credibility. And above all else, the most simple yet predictable way to flip a $10 million or more global business where you can work anywhere, live anywhere, that allows you to stop trading time for money and still build a recession-proof business in today's economy. Even if you have no product, no existing customers, no email list, no social media following, no to very little capital, no connections, no credibility. However, if you do have some business experience, you will definitely be heads and shoulders above many other people with this particular strategy, but it's not 110% necessary for what we're discussing today. The one thing you do need is courage. Courage to be able to think big, courage to be able to do what many others are not willing to do, and the courage to be able to persevere during times when times get tough, times are not easy, and times call for you to make tough decisions. Finally, you can say goodbye to no more trading time for money, no more helping someone else's dreams come true instead of yours, which is quite common if you're in a day job, and no more working 100-hour work weeks at the expense of your health, your family, and your purpose for what you want to live up to, and much, much more. Now imagine if you could predictably flip a $10 million business in 10 months without any capital, connections, or credibility. How would that change your life? Like honestly, how would that change your life from where you are right now to where you want to be in the next 3, 5, 10, 20 years, even if you want to go ahead and really think that long term? How would you feel? Like how would you finally feel if you were free from the golden chains and you could do what you want, live life on your own terms without someone heckling you over and telling you how to live your life? Who would you be? You know, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and just a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs on a daily basis, and one response I always hear is, you know, when I achieve X or when I get to destination Y, I can finally, you know, do what I want to be. I can finally become that great mother or that great father that I want to be to my kid. I can finally become a musician instead of following my parents' dreams of being an engineer. You know, the list goes on, and I'm sure you resonate with some of that. What would you do if money was never an issue anymore after you could do these types of $10 million flips? Would you finally start spending more time with your family, being present there with your kids, or helping out with family members who may require a bit more of your attention and assistance? You know, what would you do with that extra bit of free time and maximum leverage in order to maximize life to its fullest potential? Where would you go? Have you always wanted to tell yourself that you'll travel the world when you get to, you know, making X amount of money? Or would you finally go ahead and take your loved one to that destination you've been, you know, striving to go to for the past 1 year or 3 years, etc.? Where would you go? Write it down now. Think about it, visualize it, because within the next year, 2 years even, it's most probably going to come true, especially if you implement the strategies I'm going to share with you today. And what would you have? Like personally, strictly speaking, I never cared about material things, but I understand, you know, not everyone's the same. Some people may want to go buy a holiday house. Some people may want a nice car, nice home, whatever it is. What would you finally reward yourself with to go ahead and remind you that all the hard work, all the struggles that you've dealt with up until today's point was all finally worth it. So stick around to the end because I've got a special gift for you that involves a bonus whereby I take wealth creation strategies, in particular one wealth creation strategy from Wall Street, and I take it to Main Street for you to be able to comprehend and implement as an extension of today's winning strategies. In other words, we'll get you feeling. So who exactly is Hung Lee? So who is this Australian sounding Asian dude on this particular webinar who's presenting to you right now? Here's a brief rundown of who I am. So I was born and raised in Perth, Western Australia, but I'm now a global traveler. I'm essentially on a flight every 3 weeks in between Philippines, Singapore, Australia, United States. You can also throw on, I guess, Taipei and Berlin as well. My background is in mechanical engineering, so I'm a mechanical engineer turned entrepreneur since 2009, and I officially left my corporate job, my last corporate job, as a mechanical engineer in 2012. Throughout the whole journey, I've built 7 and sold 2 companies. The first company I sold was a mobile app business. I only sold it for low 6 figures in 2012, but that gave me a little bit of cash to play with. And then I went on to go ahead and build a digital marketing agency with 40 staff in the Philippines, which I then flipped for about 7 figures in 2014. Overall, I've invested more than 2.1 million, that's US dollars, in online advertising, in the fields of Facebook advertising, LinkedIn ads, AdWords, with an average net ROI 7 to 1. So what that means is I can help pretty much any client turn $1 into 7 in order to rapidly grow your business. So I'm also a business growth advisor, connector, and deal maker who's helped more than 61 entrepreneurs build multiple 6 and even 7-figure businesses while orchestrating billion-dollar plus deals in the aviation aerospace field. So if you've seen any of my other presentations, I'll talk about orchestrating billion-dollar joint ventures within the aerospace field with commercial aircrafts, but that's another conversation for another day. However, what I'm really spending 80% of my time on is being able to acquire, merge, and invest in high-tech companies in the fields of cybersecurity, AI, which is artificial intelligence, augmented reality / virtual reality, and aerospace technology in general. So these are the types of companies I'm currently focused on investing in. Here's a disclaimer, I'm not guaranteeing you will achieve the same results. However, here's why I love doing what I do. Apart from doing all the big deals, I do spend about 20% of my time mentoring and coaching entrepreneurs to be able to build great companies, and here are 5 of many success stories within my portfolio. First is Damien Donahue. So I helped Damien really have a breakthrough moment and a breakthrough strategy in his business to be able to add an extra 20k per month, which was life-changing because he was only doing a fraction of that before he came along and sought my advice. Second, I helped Brendan Monahan close the $29,500 deal, and while that may be small for a lot of you listening, that could be life-changing for many of you. Heck, that's probably a new car that you couldn't have gotten before. And Eugene Cheng, who's also my best friend and business partner, I was definitely a catalyst towards helping him transition from the corporate world to the entrepreneurial world, and now he's gone on to be just a phenomenal e-commerce expert. Like, this guy is an absolute machine. Next is Mark. So I was able to help Mark go from about 17k per month to 60k per month, and now he's hovering around 300k per month plus. So that's astronomical growth, which can be achieved with the right mindset, the right strategy, and the right support network. And then Gus, who was able to help go from 5k per month to over 20k per month in less than 4 months, which allowed for him to be able to hire more top talent, reward his team, and be able to take on much bigger projects and have the headspace to spend more time with family. However, the truth of the matter is, today isn't about me or my clients, it's about you. It's about the person here who has the courage right now to listen to this presentation, block out time to be able to commit to a new world, a new way of doing things, and a new way of absolutely kicking butt in this year and beyond. However, let's make a deal, right? So there's no get rich easy. I'm sure you heard the term, which is get rich quick. I believe 10 months period to be able to close like a 10-figure deal, of which depends upon the size of the deal, you'll get between 20 to 40% of that. But let's say, to be able to make 2 to 4 million or even just 1 million within 10 months is get rich quick. However, there's no such thing as get rich easy. There's get rich simple, which is what I'll be sharing with you today, but there's no get rich easy. Everything in life that's worth having takes a huge amount of time, effort, commitment, discipline, throw in whatever motivational word you can imagine, but that's really what it takes to be able to achieve great, massive success. and there's no do nothing get paid. So there's no such thing as you just sit by your computer, perhaps type a few emails and money falls from the sky. I've never come across any opportunity like that, and I've been an entrepreneur for more than a decade. If you do come across any opportunity like that, feel free to share it in the comments box below. But in the meantime, let's assume it does not exist. And there's no MLM, pyramid scheme lovers. Nothing against network marketing. I actually used to consult for 3 multi-million-dollar network marketing companies. That's a massive story for another day. But the reason why I stopped consulting for them was just because of the discrepancy and the difference in mindset that's not really aligned to what I see entrepreneurship as being. Sound good? Awesome. So you may be wondering, why now? Out of all times, why right now as opposed to 2 years ago, as opposed to 5 years into the future? Here's why. Let's talk about the old way of doing things, right? So what was the old way? The old way was, if you go ahead and build it, they will come. So what this saying is most notorious for is, if you build the infrastructure, it's all about location, right? What does every offline business person tell you? It's all about location. As long as you have the location there, it doesn't matter if your product's crap, it doesn't matter if your customer service is crap, you still succeed in business. Unfortunately, due to technological advances such as Google, Facebook, social media in general, that's pretty much just obliterated that type of thinking. So it's become the old way of doing business. It's completely obsolete, and of course the new way is the complete opposite of that, and I'll definitely commit to being your catalyst to being able to solve that and turn it around. So here's the new way of doing things. If you've ever read the book Exponential Organizations by Salman Ismail, it's definitely one of the best business books. It's highly scientific, somewhat nerdy, but it's just absolutely brilliant for anyone who's just a business model nerd like myself. If you haven't read it, go get a copy. It's what, $10, $12, whatever, on Amazon. Get a read of it. Read it once, 3 times, 10 times until you have a massive breakthrough. And I guarantee you could take one idea from that, implant it into your existing business, and be able to turn things around. However, let's talk about a multitude of exponential organizations. And by exponential organizations, these are organizations who are able to grow 10 times faster at 1/10 of the cost and 1/10 of pretty much the resources you would use, right? And here are some of the particular household names that are exponential organizations that you will definitely be familiar with. Firstly, you've got Airbnb. So the largest accommodation provider that owns no real estate. They don't own the hotels, they don't own the homes that they go ahead and connect you with. They are pretty much just a connector, a smart aggregator middleman in between that takes a percentage of the transactions that come through. And of course Facebook, which many of you are probably using in the background or have used today. Most popular media platform that provides no content, that owns none of its content. Netflix, largest growing television network that doesn't have to put down any cable. Alibaba, the most valuable retailer that holds no inventory, and the most valuable photo company that sells no cameras, of course Instagram. And Uber, which of course you could also say Lyft and Grab are on par with them, but Uber is the largest taxi company that owns no vehicles. So what on earth is happening here? What's happening in the new way of doing things is being able to tap into underutilized, underestimated, and unloved resources that no one else is seeing the opportunity to be able to unlock. So just really keep that in mind, because it's not about creating resources from scratch. It's actually about aggregating unloved, underutilized resources. So what the heck is happening? Well, so here's what's happening in terms of a sub-level scale, want to look at it that way. And the first shift is that we're having economic shift in terms of baby boomers passing down a lot of their wealth to millennials, who happen to be, their descendants, the children, etc. So this magazine, among many other business journals, etc., are claiming that there's about 12 trillion transfer worth of wealth that will be passed down. And the second shift is that baby boomers are retiring. Just in the US alone, on average, about 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every single day. There's other sources that will tell you that between 16 to 19% of those baby boomers own an actual business, and their children don't technically want to take over it. Think about millennials nowadays don't really want to take over dad's, lift engineering business, or, mum's sort of elevator sort of repair company. They want to go ahead and, get a job working for some massive corporation or building the next Facebook, etc. It's just very rare for them to want to take over it. So that leaves a massive opportunity for you and I. And third shift is the technological shift. And the third shift is on a technological scale, whereby we have all these technological tools, everything from social media to Google to collaborative tools to conferencing tools, to be able to actually run a business from anywhere in the world and to live anywhere in the world, as long as you have a strong internet connection, of course. Like, you don't want to be out in the bushes, like, you know, trying to hold up an antenna just to be able to get internet. You do need to be somewhere with good internet, but you can still be able to run your business without having to always show up in person. In other words, shift happens. So what exactly is the problem among everything that I've shared with you in terms of what's changing from the old way to the new way and all these shifts happening in between? What's the big problem that's staring us right in the face? Here's what I believe is one of the big problems that's affecting both you and I, and that is 99.9% of gurus are telling you a multitude of things, right? Here's that guru in the hill telling you, okay, if you want to get rich, go start a drop shipping or Shopify store, and you know, you can go ahead and make $1 million within the next 12 months, but you got to spend like 900,000 Facebook ads. Okay, great. Well, 100,000 profit, taking $1 million worth of risk. Yeah, that's not my type of way of doing things, and I'm sure that's not really enticing for you either. Next, you know, go do Amazon FBA, because, you know, you don't have to worry about acquiring customers. You just have to go ahead, private label your stuff, put it in the Amazon FBA warehouses, and next thing you know, you're rich. Well, if anyone's been in the game for a long time, of which, you know, I was doing Amazon FBA back in 2014 before I flipped a couple of the ventures. It's very different in this year and many years ahead, because Amazon's just gone so strict that many sellers are getting banned for the stupidest reasons. Next, how about you go ahead and just go to your local garage sale and just get whatever items you can, flip it on eBay, because, you know, everybody's got the time to just go to a local garage sale, you know, spend the whole Saturday collecting a whole bunch of stuff and then packaging it and putting it onto eBay. But yeah, no thanks, that's not really my way of building a global business. Next, how about a social media marketing agency? You know, don't get me wrong, like, I was selling Facebook ads as a service back in 2014 before I flipped my agency, and you can still do it, but for anyone who's done it for a long period of time, dealing with clients, yeah, it's not the most fun type of business. And by clients, I mean local business clients, like mid-market, so forth. That's a whole different ball game. They're generally more fun to work with because they think on a bigger level. But try doing, you know, Facebook ads for your local business and just see, one, how much you can charge, and two, how happy they are to have you as a service provider. You'll soon realize the truth. Next, how about the whole real estate, you know, negative gearing passive income myth? While I do believe you can build wealth, or at least protect your wealth through real estate, it's not the best way to build very low risk wealth, in my opinion, because you're really going ahead and investing a lot of money up front today in the hopes of making it back in the future. And truth be told, between you and I, do you know anyone who can predict what's going to happen within the next year, 3 years, 10 years? Most probably not. Nobody has this crystal ball, and if they do, they're most probably worth $1 trillion. But let's assume for now that it's pretty hard to be able to predict what's going to happen within the next few years. So let's not take that risk. Let's take a different route. Or how about just become a freelancer? Don't get me wrong, freelance is good if you want to run like a 6-figure per year business and you want to be like a digital nomad, you know, hang out in Bali or whatever parts of the world, whether it's Europe, etc., explore the world, etc. But you're not going to build any real wealth, because at the end of the day, you're still going to have to work on your laptop and deal with clients, and a lot of the times you're dealing with a lot of headaches as well. Trust me, I've been there, and I've coached, mentored many people being there, and that's why I've discovered much better solutions to that will be delved into during today's presentation. Next, how about becoming an inventor? How about you invent the next whiz-bang gadget thing that's going to radically change the world, and you just get a percentage of the commissions? While that's possible, I've spoken to many inventors who've locked themselves up in their own basement for 5, 10, 20 years trying to invent, you know, the next light bulb or shiny object, only to realize that they've wasted so much of that time, and there's a much more viable strategy in order to be able to break through and create wealth. Or how about coding like crazy? Just become the next Mark Zuckerberg, you know, for the next 10 years, just become a programmer, code away, you're building the next Snapchat, you know, you'll have all these bids left, right and center that everybody wants to acquire, fancy social network / Instagram copycat platform, whatever. You could potentially do that, but chances of doing that is very slim. And then how about affiliate marketing? You know, I've done affiliate marketing in the past, and it's a good way to earn a little bit of extra income. but you're not going to build any real wealth, because the moment any type of paid advertising dries up, there's a Google change, Facebook ads makes a massive change and hits all your campaigns, or something happens, you generally have to start over from square one or close to square one. And then from all of this, you're left feeling. So here's the kicker. The gurus may be good at selling you information, about outdated tactics, shiny objects, what have you, but know nothing, or at least very little, about building real wealth, which begs the question, what on earth is wealth anyway? Everybody's got a different definition of it. I'll share with you what I believe my definition to be. You don't have to go ahead and take this as gospel, but feel free to have an open mind and just share it with me as I share it with you right now. So wealth is directly proportional to how much you can give to others without expecting anything in return. So what exactly do I mean by that? Here are some examples. If you're wealthy in time, you will have an abundance in giving your time to help others. If you're wealthy in money, finances, etc., then you'll have an abundance in giving your money to help others to do the same and to create this sort of ripple effect of perpetual giving. Wealth in relationships, you'll have an abundance in giving your absolute best, your absolute love, to help those around you to live life to its fullest potential. And the whole point of today's presentation, today's strategies, is to be able to get you feeling happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise, because all of those factors matter. It's not about just having a whole bunch of money in the bank and then you don't have any time spending with loved ones, or it's not about just having all the time in the world but you're stressed out about paying your bills. It's about being very integrated in all areas of your life so that you can live life to its fullest potential, so that you yourself can be the best person you can be. So before we have a breakthrough moment, I want you to really go back to the place of when you first started your business, or when you first decided you were worthy of a better life, of bigger goals, of bigger dreams. Like, what was that big why that really drove you to think that way? Was it because you wanted the best for your family? Was it because you wanted to explore the world? Was it because you were just tired of that one uncle, sibling, whatever you, pushing you down and telling you that you can't achieve something? Just remember why you started. So before you ever try to give up or tell yourself you're not good enough, remember why you started. So, are you ready to kick it? So the out-of-the-box formula that I'm going to share with you today is really a culmination of more than a decade of entrepreneurial experience, also more than a decade of networking with all different types of billionaires, millionaires, entrepreneurs who have been able to really allow me to see entrepreneurship through a different set of eyes. As a result, I created what I call the 8-figure deal maker system that comprises of 4 stages. So think of this as being like a game of Super Mario, where every single time you pass a level, you're constantly leveling up and you're having that sort of red mushroom to go ahead and really level up. However, you're more than welcome to call me Mr. Mushroom, because I'm such a fun guy. So the first stage of the actual 4 stages really is what I call the stage 0. So it's not yet stage 1, it's stage 0, it's your foundation. Before you execute any particular type of strategy, what a lot of entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs forget is the power of the mind in being able to drive you through the toughest and the darkest times during this whole process. So you need to be able to get clear on who you are, who you want to be, and what message you want to put out into the world for your ideal demographic to perceive you as. Otherwise, you're just really going into the forest without a map, or you're getting into your car, driving down to your destination without any way of knowing how to get there. So that's the first part, is your foundation. Stage 1 comprises of connecting with big buyers. So these are buyers who can go ahead and really move the needle for you and connect you in the right direction, and who will also end up acquiring your big business, which we'll be talking about. Stage 2 is to aggregate the sellers. Stage 3 is to assemble the micro deal team, and stage 4 is to win the deal. So first step is your foundation. So step 1, building your foundation. So just like this image here, everybody sees what the iceberg can only show. So they see that, oh yeah, he's great, he's done really well, that came out of nowhere. They don't see what's below the iceberg. They don't see your level of hardcore persistence, your failure, the sacrifices you made, how many times you were disappointed when people said no, the good habits that you had set in place, the hard work that you had to commit to, and your level of dedication that's seen as a sickness compared to everyone else's level of dedication. And from today onwards, I'd love for you to commit to playing at a higher level. And if you talk to most people, right, they always tell you, go sell a $10 ebook because it's easier than trying to sell, a $10,000 product or do $1 million deal. And I'm here to tell you, after my decade of entrepreneur experience, it's easier to do a $10 million deal than it is to do a 10K deal. Why is that? Because when you do a $10 million deal, you've got less competition and you're generally playing at a higher level, which requires much more courage. Yeah, as mentioned in the beginning, which is definitely one of the main things you need. And you're less likely to deal with less serious people going to waste your time. Next, I want you to commit to playing to win, because the big difference between playing to win versus playing not to lose is when you're playing to win, you do whatever it takes to be able to achieve your dreams. When you play not to lose, you're mentally telling yourself that you'll already achieved what you want, and all you're doing from here onwards is making decisions based upon, reducing risk, based upon like, oh, well, I've already made it, so I better not make any decisions where I lose it, so I won't bother about growth. I'll just bother spending my time trying to, protect what I have. And then you go into scarcity mindset, which is the absolute worst thing to do when you're really committed to making your dreams happen. And then start with why. So I'm sure 80% of each and every one of you awesome people watching this presentation has already watched this book or seen Simon Sinek's TED Talk about Start With Why, which is really asking the smart question, which is why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you want your dreams? It's the most powerful question that very few have the courage to ask in today's world. But one thing I'll add on top of that is starting with why does not do anything until you set an affirmation behind it. And then once the affirmation's in place, affirmations can actually accelerate action. So by affirmations, what I mean is if your big why is to go ahead and really create freedom for your family, or to be able to help your business unlock its true potential, write it down. Write it down, print it out, put it in the corner of your mirror when you're brushing your teeth. Make sure you're saying it at least twice a day. Do whatever it takes to make those affirmations switch your brain into high gear so that you set yourself up for success for the day ahead, or you set yourself up for success before you go to sleep. So it's time to go ahead and kick some serious butt on LinkedIn. And you may be wondering, well, why on earth LinkedIn? Why can't I just go ahead and pick up the phone, start dialing business owners so I can build a $10 million business, whatever? And here's the reason why. LinkedIn is the best business-to-business platform where you're able to connect with some of the biggest high performers in the world that you may not be able to connect through email, through just picking up the phone, or in general. LinkedIn has just become a great platform, a great tool to be able to unlock that level of networking, to be able to unlock that level of democratizing networking. Firstly, you want to optimize your LinkedIn profile. So I'm going to assume you at least have some sort of basic understanding of LinkedIn. If you don't, this presentation may not be for you, or you can go ahead and read a few articles or YouTube videos on how to set up your LinkedIn profile. But here's a few pointers, is that you want to have a catchy tagline. So my tagline at the moment is investing in high-tech, cybersecurity, AI, AR, VR, aerospace, etc. companies that are looking to exit for more than 3x EBITDA and also commercial aircraft sales. So I'm essentially optimizing my LinkedIn profile to be found for the right keywords, very similar to how many people out there would optimize a website for Google. Here we're optimizing it so you can be found for ideal keywords within LinkedIn. So just make sure you also have a punchy bio. Don't worry, I'll put a link to my LinkedIn profile in the description so that you can semi-model what you write. But of course, you want to make sure that your biography, your about section is more congruent to who you are and who you want to be and the journey that you've experienced, as opposed to trying to model my journey word for word. And next up, you want to join LinkedIn groups. This is what I call networking your way to success, and being able to hack your way to success by connecting with some of the biggest high performers and big players in the industry. So why LinkedIn groups? Well, firstly, it expands your second, third tier network. So what that means is you're able to expand more mutual friends within your network just by joining the right LinkedIn groups. It also gives you a mutual commonality before reaching out to big buyers and sellers who are really a big part of the 4 stages of this business model. You'll also be able to gain great data and industry insights that you may not be able to find anywhere else. There's only so much you can really Google online. To me, the most valuable insights are real-time insights where big connectors or keynote speakers, movers and shakers will post something in a LinkedIn group that will absolutely change the game, either for your life, for your peers, or for someone else that you know. So here's a little snapshot of the LinkedIn newsfeed. It may look different, as with all social media channels, they're always going ahead and constantly optimizing. Next is you want to go up to the top left hand side to the search bar, and then make sure you have groups ticked. You will need to join two types of groups. There's two types of groups that you have to join. The first one being where your big buyers hang out, and by big buyers I mean these are guys who already have access to a lot of finance and are willing to acquire a business more than $10 million, because that's the type of game that they play at. So these big buyers comprise of private equity, family offices, trade buyers, etc. The second type of groups where you want to be joining are groups where your sellers hang out. So industry targets you're looking to acquire, consolidate, merge. So industry targets you are looking to acquire, such as IT services firms, medical device companies, etc. This will really vary based upon what your big buyer tells you. So not to worry, this will all come together as we progress throughout the presentation. Stage 1, connect with big buyers. So step 2 will be connect with big buyers through LinkedIn. So we're going to really delve through step by step how to get the best maximum leverage out of LinkedIn to be able to accelerate your connections and credibility, even if you're starting from a subpar level connection credibility right now. Then step 3 is to determine the deal criteria that the big buyer is actually looking for, so you can go ahead and really aggregate the sellers, which is in stage 2. So joining relevant LinkedIn groups, you want to make sure these are relevant LinkedIn groups where your big buyers hang out. So let's search for private equity groups, and what comes up at this point in time is about 2,667 potential groups. Very first one being private equity, investor relations, fundraising, placement, investment, and venture capital 2. So let's go ahead and delve into this group as an example. And what you'll find is when you click on that particular group or open it up in a new tab, unless you're part of the group already, let's assume that you're not, you'll see the button of request to join. And to the right hand side, you'll see the group admins. So you've got Matthew as a group admin, and you've got Daniel as group admin. Here's what so many people do not do on LinkedIn that they should be doing, which is connecting with the group admins. Because once you join the group, you get accepted and you connect with the group admins, you then expand your network with super connectors. So people who have thousands of connections, who have deep connections actually, and great relationships that you can definitely leverage and accelerate moving forward. And once you're approved, as mentioned, so proceed to send connection requests to all the group owners and admins, because they are awesome super connectors who most of the time are really responsive and will accept your LinkedIn connection requests without any hesitation. So let's say we want to connect with Matthew, who's one of the group admins of that private equity group. You would click on connect. Then you would see that you want to add a note. By all means, stop right now and do not click send now. This is a big mistake that all LinkedIn marketers, gurus, whatever do, is that they just go straight to sending now, and they send the most generic LinkedIn connection request, which is, I came across your LinkedIn profile, like, would you connect? Like, it's just the most generic LinkedIn connection request ever. Don't do that. What you want to do is personalize as much as you can to maximize the acceptance rate. So click on add a note. What you'll see is a box like this. Don't worry, I'm going to give you a template of what you should say. So here's the template, which is hello first name. Thanks for accepting my request to join the LinkedIn group. Moreover, would you be open to connecting via LinkedIn to further share ideas and resources? Your name, value proposition statement. So here's the template. Hello Matthew, thanks for accepting my request to join the private equity investor relations group. Moreover, would you be open to connecting via LinkedIn to further share ideas and resources? Hung Lee, buying, merging, investing companies doing 500k to 5 million EBITDA. So EBITDA is just a fancy phrase for net profit. So just input that into the box that we saw when you clicked add a note. So hello Matthew ... Once that's in there, just make sure it's all formatted correctly, then click on send invitation. And after joining 10 or more LinkedIn groups, what you'll start to find is people in the industry will begin to take notice as you've managed to connect with these super connectors, which are what was referring to super connectors as being the group admins or the group owners. So step 2 is to connect with big buyers via LinkedIn. Before you do that, I would suggest to go ahead and sign up for Sales Navigator. Yes, it's a tool that costs money. It's only about $80 per month. It's not a huge investment, but it will seriously make you millions of dollars within the next year, 3, 5 years, whatever, as long as you follow the great advice that I'm going to share throughout today's presentation. So just sign up for Sales Navigator. If you're not already a member, you'll get a free 30 days trial, which is absolutely awesome. Once you've done that, you'll go into the home section and click on the advanced search tab to the right hand side. Once you click on advanced search, you'll see a drop down tab that shows search for leads, search for accounts. You want to click on search for leads, because we are looking for particular big buyers that are also mutual friends of ours. You'll see this big menu. Don't be too overwhelmed, just follow this step by step. So for keywords, just put in this Boolean search, which is private equity in double quotation marks, to make sure you filter out the venture capital type of listings. Next, you can choose United States or whichever country you're based in. Industry is venture capital and private equity, because we're looking for the big buyers. Profile language is English or whichever language you're looking to use. And roughly results come out to be about 1,533 results. And seniority level, you want that to be the owner. And the groups, so right here I just put in private equity, MMA and venture capital. I understand that the previous group was slightly different, but nonetheless this just give you a bit more of a 30,000 foot view, a greater scope, that you want to choose the group that you're already part of to see which private equity owners, partners, funders within this particular group that you could potentially connect with and spark a conversation with. Once you do that, what I've found here is we can see Alex. He's comes across as a director of a private equity firm at Hudson Advisors LP. So let's go ahead and open up Alex Grau in a different profile, in a different tab, sorry. And click on the 3 dots to the right hand side. You'll see a drop down menu that will then tell you to view the profile on LinkedIn.com. This is very important. Don't view it in Sales Navigator, view it on LinkedIn.com so that you can actually connect with this person. Once you see the profile on LinkedIn.com, you should see something very similar to this. You'll see a connect button. So again, click on connect, then click add a note. And you want to be able to send a personalized connection request with the, not like a hardcore salesy type of message, but you want it to have a soft pitch that really entices them to want to take the relationship to the next level. Here's a template, which is hello name, noticing we are both members of LinkedIn group name. Are you still looking to expand your portfolio in 2020? If so, let's connect to see how we can best help you get more deal flow. If you're open to it, your name. Then go ahead and insert that into the connection invitation box. Then once you get accepted, roughly you'll probably find anywhere between 15 to 30% of big buyers. So big buyers, I mean, private equity, family offices, trade buyers, etc., who accept your connection request. And once they do, then you've got the permission to actually follow up and message them. Don't message them some huge essay about how great you are. Here's the exact message you want to say. You just want to say name. Thanks for connecting with me. What deal criteria are you currently focused on right now? Happy to help. That's it. Don't go ahead and say anything else. Keep it short, sweet, and simple. And what you'll find is you'll get a lot of responses, because when it comes to private equity, the deal flow type of game, they're constantly networking, because they know they're just one connection away from landing one massive deal. So, you never know, and you can use that to your advantage. You can leverage that to your advantage. So here's a real example of a template I got that empowered me to be able to work on an awesome deal. Hung asset light B2B services with revenues between 10 million to 40 million and EBITDA, net profit margins of at least 15%. Here's the kicker, right, is a lot of people will go straight into trying to find that $10 million deal. Here's what I'm advocating to you that very few are doing in this marketplace. So the game plan is, instead of finding a $10 million business in annual revenue, like instead of finding just one business doing that 10 million, you want to find 5, 10, it's entirely up to you. I find 5 would do, because the more companies you go to aggregate, let's say if you're going for 10, the longer it's going to take. But if you find 5 doing 2 million revenue, then you step into a territory where a lot of private equity companies won't bother playing because it's just not worth their time dealing with that level of due diligence. So you want to find 5 companies doing 2 million annual revenue and aggregate that under an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, which really is just a holdings company, to allocate the shares to the 5 different $2 million per year in annual revenue companies. And then you want to go ahead and flip this whole holdings company to the big buyer. So you may be wondering, why the heck would you do this specific strategy? Wouldn't it be easier just to flip the $10 million company instead of aggregating the 5 companies? And here's why. There's essentially zero competition for doing this because private equities and big buyers, they don't even waste their time with these types of small businesses. Like, they've got better things to do, which is dealing with 10, 30, $50 million plus companies. However, we're creating that for them by aggregating these little guys or little gals into the same entity, same holdings company. You also help the buyer mitigate risk by creating a small yet diverse portfolio of companies, which is really impressive in their eyes. Very few people are able to do this, but of course you're going to be able to join the club after today's presentation just by implementing the strategies I'm sharing with you. And no one is doing this, like no one is doing it in the way I'm sharing with you right now. So rest assured, just by you watching today's presentation, you're going to be ahead of the game. But of course, when you have all these big buyers throwing all these offers your way, saying, hey, I want, $20 million cybersecurity company, or I want a $15 million per year, IT services company, achieving X, Y, and Z. You need to be able to pass these particular industries through what I call the market litmus test to see if it's even worth your time or whether the deal is going to go through. And here's how you conduct what I call a market litmus test. In order to pass a market litmus test, you need to be able to determine if the particular market sector has these 2 particular criteria met, which is the first being, is it a fragmented industry? So this strategy works best when you've got thousands of smaller players, and by smaller players I mean companies that are doing between 1 million to 10 million revenue that are all competing against each other, as opposed to a non-fragmented industry where it's run by 1 to 5 players. So for instance, if you look at cola as an industry, if you look at soft drinks, cola that is, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, really it's a duopoly, so they pretty much control most of the market share. If you look at commercial aircrafts, you've got Boeing, Airbus, sort of Embraer, but generally speaking, Boeing and Airbus run the entire industry. What you want is fragmented, where you've got thousands of little players who are all great at what they do, but they're constantly competing for market share. And when you have an industry like that that's fragmented, perfect, you can cross that. You can tick that, because you're halfway there. Then secondly, you want to check the EBITDA multiple. So EBITDA multiple is just a multiple, so multiplication of the actual net profit. You may be wondering, okay, where on earth do I go to find out if the industry is fragmented? Like, do I have to spend my whole time Google searching my whole day? No, you don't have to do that. Here's an awesome resource. Go to mortarintelligence.com. Here's a URL here. Type in whatever niche, whichever industry that the big buyer has told you they're interested in. For instance, I've just put in information technology services here, in other words IT services, and a report's come up. You don't have to buy the report. Just with the free information alone, you can gain wealth of insights that will put you as being one of the smartest people in the room. So let's say we look at IT services. If we look on the left hand side, we've got CAGR, which is the compounded annual growth rate. So year on year, roughly, is predicted to grow at about 7.7%. That's okay. Generally speaking, I'd prefer more than 10%, but because we are flipping these deals within 10 months or less, then anything above about 5% compounded annual growth rate is definitely worth your time. Then if we look on the right hand side, it tells us that it's not hugely fragmented, it's not hugely consolidated. So IT services industry is somewhere in between, which means there's still room to be able to consolidate this fragmented industry. My estimation is between next 3 to 5 years that'll be the case. After that, it will most probably be very consolidated. So why not strike while the iron's hot? And of course, second, in terms of EBITDA multiple, generally speaking, the private equity firm or the big buyer will give you what they believe to be the EBITDA multiple that they'll be happy to acquire your holdings, your SPV entity for. But just so you can get a rough idea of what's possible, just go to this particular website, equidam.com/URLs right here. and you'll be able to see a whole bunch of EBITDA multiples for like literally hundreds of industries. Like, this resource is just absolute gold mine. Very few people use it, so I'm sharing it with you today. So for instance, if we scroll down on that particular URL, what you find is for IT services consulting, they say EBITDA multiple is about 8.91. So what that means is, if you've got a company doing, let's say, $1 million EBITDA, so $1 million net profit per year, then roughly you'll be able to sell it for about 8.91 million, which is pretty good. If you like what you see, then proceed to the next step, which is step 3. If you don't like what you see, so it's a big no, then just repeat the market intelligence step. So going through those 2 criteria again, so looking at whether the industry is fragmented, and secondly, whether the EBITDA multiple can justify the actual exit and the point of doing this business model. Just go back, repeat the whole process, if that doesn't pass the test, of course. And then step 3, you want to obtain an expression of interest letter from the big buyer. Reason why you want to do this is, 1, it will just give you more excitement to know that it's progressing past the step. It also makes the big buyer have a micro commitment towards accelerating the deal, so it's a win-win situation for all parties involved. Next stage is stage 2. Stage 2 is aggregate the sellers. So again, you want to join relevant groups. This time you want to join LinkedIn groups where the sellers hang out, so not where the buyers hang out, so where the sellers hang out. And if we just do a sample search of IT services, the first one we see is IT managed services. Then let's go ahead and open up that group in a different tab, and what you see is, provided you're not already part of it, is request to join. And taking note of the right hand side, that Paul Godfrey is the group admin, so we also want to connect with him as well. So once you're approved of the group, so once Paul has approved you, so to speak, you want to proceed to send connection requests to all group owners / admins. So in other words, Paul Godfrey, who's the super connector / group admin owner. Then once you go to his profile, click on connect, then click on add a note. And then again, you'll see this invitation sort of box, but before you go ahead and just press send invitation, you want to go ahead and follow this template, which is, hello Paul, thanks for accepting my request to join LinkedIn name group. Moreover, would you be open to connecting via LinkedIn to further share ideas and resources? Your name, value proposition statement. So here's the template, that's roughly word for word. So hello Paul, thanks for accepting my request to join the IT managed services group. Moreover, would you be open to connecting via LinkedIn to further share ideas and resources? Hung Lee, helping IT managed services businesses exit for more than 3x, more than 3 times multiple EBITDA. If you notice from what I put down, I actually put a different value proposition statement just to increase the likelihood that I'll be able to get this particular connection request accepted. So insert that into the invitation / connection box, then click on send invitation. And again, after joining more than about 10 LinkedIn groups, people in the industry will begin to take notice, as they've pretty much seen that you've become the super connector. You're connecting with other people who are also connected to the movers and shakers, the game changers, the innovators within the industry. Within stage 2, we move on to step 4, which is deal origination. So how do we accelerate deal flow so that we have, for instance, more IT managed services companies coming our way to say that they want to exit the companies? Step 5 is, once they reach out to you on LinkedIn, like, what the heck do you do to get them on a first meeting, on a phone call? And yes, it has to be a phone call so that you can really build that instant rapport, instant connection to see how serious they are in actually exiting the business. Step 6 is deal screening, so seeing if they're really suitable for your SPV / holdings company. Step 7 is deal structuring and negotiation, so having the second meeting to really solidify the paperwork, the heads of terms, and what's really going to be happening once they do exit the company. And step 8 is rinse and repeat until you have X. So what I mean by X is, once you have your X limit of number of subsidiaries that you're going to have underneath your SPV or holdings company. So step 4, deal origination. So again, you want to go to the home page of your Sales Navigator, click on Advanced Search, and as usual, you'll see a drop down menu. It says search for leads or search for accounts. This time, you want to actually search for accounts, because we're looking for companies and entities that we can potentially acquire to put underneath our SPV/holdings company. So first thing you want to do is pre-qualify, and by pre-qualify I mean just narrow down your LinkedIn search to use a Boolean search to make your searches and accounts a lot more targeted. So I could have put in, IT managed services. In this case, I want to go even more super targeted, more super niche, so to speak, and I'm putting cloud computing. And geography was United States. Industry, IT and services. Company headcount, 11 and 50, because roughly they'll be making anywhere between about 1 to 5 million revenue. And the results that came out, there are approximately about 532 accounts on LinkedIn that potentially could be perfect targets for joining our SPV/holdings entity. And once you click search, you'll see this sort of user interface, user experience that's listed on the particular screen. So just keep that in mind. And then, of course, it gets a little bit messy trying to manage 532 accounts. So what you want to do is leverage Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel to be able to keep yourself organized. Very similar to what you see on the screen. You want one column for company name, website URL, revenue if you can get those numbers, where are they based, location, their address, contact number, which may be useful if you want to do like a follow-up call, the position, title, name, last name, email, and LinkedIn profile of the actual decision maker, because we're only concerned with talking to the decision maker and the owner of the particular company. We're not interested in talking to the receptionist, who will not necessarily be the right person to talk to in terms of acquiring the company. So once you found the decision makers on LinkedIn, what you really need to do is send them a LinkedIn connection request. And here's an example what you want to say. Again, you need to be as personalized and strategic as possible. So name, noticing company name has built a great reputation in the industry. Industry name, industry. So that industry could be, let's say, IT services or cloud computing. Would you be open to selling your business for more than what it's worth today? If so, let's connect to further discuss how we can best make this happen for you, your name and value proposition statement. Once the particular decision maker of the IT services company or whatever acquisition industry or whatever industry target you're looking at accepts your LinkedIn connection request, you want to follow up with a message, because now you're connected, you have the permission to go ahead and send them an actual follow-up message, and here's what you want to say. Great to hear from you. First name. We're in the process of putting together a small group, say 5 max or 8 max, of industry companies doing more than 500k EBITDA, so 500k profit per year, who would like to exit within the next 12 months. Would you like to join us? Whom? P.S. For your information, our buyer has expressed interest to acquire the whole group for up to X amount of dollars, 25 million, 30 million, whatever. So your stake could potentially be worth 1.5 million to 2.5 million upon exit. Worth considering? ? And trust me, this template works like gangbusters. So don't try to come up with something crazy and outsource to Upwork or wherever platform and get some fancy copywriter. Follow this template and you'll be absolutely cool. Then once they go ahead and respond, say, man, like, this sounds cool. Like, yes, like, tell me more, like, what's this all about, etc. You want to then follow up and say, fantastic. Next step is for us to get on a quick 15 minutes call to discuss whether there's a good fit. So this is your pre-qualifying state. Then you want to say, I can do either, time 1 or time 2. So let's say Tuesday or Thursday. So give it 2 days. 2 days apart works quite well. And give a morning time. So let's say 10 a.m. and an afternoon time, 3 p.m. So you've got that level of variability. So 1 morning slot, 1 afternoon slot. Do either work for you? First name, which is their first name, and then you put your name to sign off. P.S. Alternatively, you can just book a time on my calendar and put a link to like your Calendly link, your youcanbook.me link, or your Schedule Once link. So an online scheduler to prevent this sort of back and forth tag, I'll call it, or the ping pong sort of conversation where you say, hey, can you do X time? No, I can't. Well, can you do this time? No, I can't. Having an online scheduler just really eradicates that level of waste. So definitely get that up and running. It's pretty simple. I'm not going to waste my time telling you how to do that. There's plenty of videos online that will help you be able to set it up. It's quite user intuitive. You can do it. If you manage to get like up until this presentation to this point, you can definitely do it. And once the meeting time is confirmed, You want to send through a non-disclosure agreement, so an NDA. There are plenty of templates online. You can go to pandadoc.com or any sort of similar type of proposal template platform. You don't need to go to a fancy expensive lawyer because most non-disclosure agreements are very similar. So they're very cookie cutter in that aspect. And this particular NDA should be signed like before the actual meeting takes place, because if not, the meeting will have to be rescheduled. Otherwise, you're putting both of yourselves at a level of uncomfortableness that you don't want to have on the first meeting. So you want to set the frame, you want to pace things before you get really into the nitty-gritty of being able to determine whether the particular acquisition target is a good fit for the SPV/holdings group. Step 5 is your first meeting, the phone call. So you may be wondering, what on earth do you say when you have that first meeting? Rest assured, here are the 13 awesome questions that you want to ask in this particular sequence to be able to make yourself sound credible, professional, just really that you know what you're doing. And the first question is, how did you get started in the business? What's your awesome story, Paul? What this does is build instant rapport. You're not just seen as some sort of money-hungry guy, money-hungry person who just wants to go ahead and, like buy the business and just ruin it. Second question is, if we were to have this conversation 12 months time, what would have had to happen in order for you to be happy with exiting your business? So future pacing and positioning. Question 3, why is that most important to you? Question 4, I'm curious, why are you looking to exit? Why all of a sudden right now? So you need to determine their level of urgency to see how serious they really are. Question 5, is the business currently on the market? So this will tell you if they've tried to sell or if they've had a whole bunch of headaches with traditional business brokers who promise them the world. Then question 6, who owns the company and in what percentages? So whether you're talking to the right decision maker. Question 7, how much profit did the company make last year? Ideally, you want more than 500k EBITDA, which is net profit. If they say something ridiculous like 100k, technically speaking, they're just a wrong target. It's probably not even a good idea to continue conversation. Just say, okay, you may not be a good fit. Not a problem. Let's go ahead and connect in the near future, etc. Don't waste their time, don't waste your time. But ideally, you want more than 500k EBITDA. Question 8 is, what is the cash position of the business? So determine the financial health of the company right now, because if they say, well, every year we have no cash left, there's probably something going on in the business. Then question 9, my accountant will be asking you this, so I might as well ask you right now, are there any pressing creditors? So what you're trying to find out with this question is see how serious they are and whether they're transparent, because at the same time, if they're hiding a lot of skeletons from you and then you find out later, it's a waste of time. But if they tell you up front, they're most probably very serious about exiting the business, and they're serious about building a long-term relationship and not screwing you over. Because I've seen a lot of deals go through where there's been a lot of skeletons, and this question will protect you. It won't 100% protect you, but will more likely be able to protect you than if you did not ask this question. Question 10, who are your key employees? Do you have a second in charge who's an absolute superstar who pretty much can do your job better than you, but let's face it, at the end of the day, you're the one who's run the business. Question 11, why are they not buying the business? Question 12, how much are you looking to exit your business for? Question 13, help me understand how you arrived at that figure, because the truth is a lot of business owners will generally want some crazy valuation. They're trying to be a little bit cheeky. They'll only lowball their own valuation if the family's going through some health conditions or they're going through cancer, etc., something that's tragic. Then they'll give you a ridiculous offer, but let's assume that 9 times out of 10 will be blown out of proportion valuation. And asking question 13, help me understand how you arrived at that figure, gets them to justify with both logic and emotion whether they're actually trying to screw you over or screw themselves over. So at the end of the first meeting, you want to request for the following financials. Don't worry, you don't have to know the ins and outs and be like a hardcore CPA. Just know these particular names and you'll be fine. So you'll need a current profit and loss statement from them. So that's a statement of profit earned or losses suffered. Second, current balance sheet. So that just mentions assets, liabilities, and the owner's equity within the particular company. And then the last 3 years of federal tax returns, so that later on your particular micro deal team can help you see or find any types of discrepancies. So step 6 is deal screening. What I mean by deal screening is determining whether the acquisition targets pass all of these criteria. Generally speaking, you want all of the boxes ticked, but of course every deal may be different. I can't tell you off the back of my mind if that's 100% go zone if one of the boxes isn't ticked, but let's assume for now that you found a target. The target's in a fragmented industry, a super niche market leader, so they're within a particular industry, let's say IT services, but within that is a super niche such as cloud computing, and they happen to be the market leader for cloud computing. And then next is looking at the fact that they've got between 11 to 50 company employees, so they've got employees to run the company when the owner exits, and they're ready to exit within the next 12 months. They're profitable, let's say more than 500k EBITDA, so more than 500k annual profit, and they're debt free. So reason why you want debt free is you want everyone who joins your SPV/holdings company to be on the same level, because if they've got skeletons in the closet and they've got millions of dollars worth of loans and they're about to liquidate, they're probably a ticking time bomb that you definitely do not want joining your SPV and being the rotten apple that spoils it for everyone else. So after these criteria are ticked, you want to determine if they are a good fit, and if they are a good fit, you want to schedule a follow-up phone call, so a second phone call meeting. You don't need to meet in person. There's a reason why a lot of this can really be done virtually. And once they are a good fit, move on to step 7. And if they're not a good fit, you want to notify them immediately, but go ahead and put them on a waiting list and follow up with them perhaps in the next 3 months, next quarter, next 2 quarters, etc. Because you never know. Perhaps sometimes when they get told they're not a good fit, they may, get their stuff together, so to speak, and start, changing bottom line around, making the business more sellable so that they can reach out to you again. So put them on a waiting list, and if things change in your favor, then it's always worth reconnecting in the next quarter or 2 quarters, etc. Step 7, so deal structuring negotiation. Essentially, this is the second meeting you have with the acquisition target. Essentially, what you want to be solidifying is agreeing on a fair multiple/valuation. So let's say the IT services company is making 500k EBITDA, and they said, look, honestly, we'll be really happy if we can sell for 3x EBITDA, 1.5 million. Then that's exactly what you're going to agree on, that bare minimum they will sell for 1.5 million upon the exit of this particular holdings company. Then you want to send through a draft sales and purchase agreement to include the following, right? These are 2 big important clauses that you need to have, which is when we find a buyer for X dollars, we sell. So in other words, when we find a buyer for 25 million, we will sell the entire holdings company/SPV, and everybody wins. And a lot of the times when I share this particular deal making strategy with a lot of entrepreneurs, well, really not a lot of entrepreneurs, sorry, a handful of entrepreneurs who've been able to see this behind the doors, is that you want to be able to have each and every acquisition target invest in a commitment fee, because otherwise they're going to waste your time, they won't be as committed, and they won't be as serious about exiting. What this does is also allows for you to have some cash to be able to set up the actual SPV and holdings company, which is in the next stages, of course. But you want to put in a clause that is 10k for them to join the SPV, so special purpose vehicle, but the fee is forfeited if they change their mind within the next 12 months. So if they go ahead and say, okay, next 3 months I change my mind because I want to sell my business to someone else, then really they're breaking the exclusivity clause, and they will have to forfeit that 10k. However, that 10k is returned back to them if they are found to be unsuitable for the SPV during the due diligence phase. So if we find out they've got skeletons in the closet and we're not going to exit with them as part of the SPV/holdings company, then it's only fair that we return that 10k back to them and just move on with our day. So once the sales and purchase agreement has been signed, you want to send bank-wide details for them to deposit that 10k commitment fee for joining the SPV group. Once you get that 10k, don't go out and go shopping or whatever, go crazy with it. Leave it there, because you're going to need at least more than half of that to be able to deposit into whichever entity or jurisdiction you're setting up the special purpose vehicle, and also you may need that for other expenses moving forward. So note if there's any resistance in doing so. So if you have some type of IT services company goes, I'm not interested in depositing 10k, why do I have to deposit anything? I want him to deposit $1, etc. If they give you that level of resistance, one, you have to question how serious they are about exiting their business for millions of dollars, and two, so you have the option of making them a power guarantee. And here's how to make them power guarantee word for word. I want you to say this. So once we confirm that you are suitable for the SPV during the due diligence phase, and if for whatever reason I cannot find you a buyer within the next 12 months, then I will happily return double your commitment fee. Worst case, you get 20k, and best case scenario, you exit your company and set yourself up for life. And I know what you're thinking. So step 8 is rinse and repeat until the X number of subsidiaries are part of your SPV, or at least have signed the sales and purchase agreement and are ready to roll in essence. So repeat steps 5 to 7 until you have sufficient X number of subsidiaries moving forward. So that may be 1 acquisition target, 2, 3, 4, 5 acquisition targets that when put together are doing roughly 2 million, 2 million in annual revenue each, but accrue a total amount of 10 million annual revenue. Stage 3, so assembling the micro deal team. Stage 3 comprises of steps 9 to 12. So step 9 is you want to assemble the micro deal team. So these are people who work on a deferred fee basis to be able to help you get the deal across, to protect you legally, to do it in the smartest way, and to tell you if any of the subsidiaries are, ticking time bombs waiting to happen. Step 10 is micro deal team performs the due diligence. Step 11, you set up the special purpose vehicle to create this legal moat to make sure you're not kicked out of the deal. And step 12 is you consolidate the accounts. Step 9, assembling the micro deal team. What you want to do is create a top 30. 30 is the sweet spot for number of accounting firms, and top 30 law firms in your particular local city. You could go, maybe a better city, New York, whatever. But generally speaking, if they're in your local city, it's just easier to connect with them sometimes. And you want to be able to create this list either through performing Google search or using the same skills that are shared in the previous slides about using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Once you create this list, you want to send a breakthrough email requesting for the accounting firm and or the law firms to work on a deferred fees basis with you, but you also want to mention that you've got an expression of interest document from the buyer, and you've also got 5 sale and purchase agreements signed. Here's a winning template that you can literally tweak, use according to your particular deal that you'll be acquiring. First is you want to make sure you get the accounting firm's email. You want the direct decision maker's email. A lot of the times it can be found on the website, on LinkedIn, etc. Accounting firms are generally, always open for more business. So it's not like they're going to be hiding the email address in some, $50 million safe or whatever. So once you've got the accounting firm's email, direct email, input that into your particular email provider. Next, you want to have a compelling subject line. So here's one that's worked like gangbusters. So help with $25 million deal ? And then you want some kick-ass copy in your email body. And here's a sample. Hello name, we're currently in talks with a buyer who is looking to acquire our portfolio of companies for up to 25 million. Hence, we require the following. 1. Financial/tax due diligence for the subsidiaries, 5 companies in total that we are in the process of acquiring. 2. Setup of SPV, so special purpose vehicle, as a holdings company. And are you open to working on a deferred fee basis? Happy to send through our buyer's EOI letter and 5 times sale and purchase agreements as proof. How's that for a wicked email, right? How many accounting firms do you know that would not respond back to something like that? Once you have an accounting firm agree to work on a deferred fee basis, next best step is you want to benefit from the synergy of the accounting firm and the most trusted law firm. And here's how you do that is you want to request a warm introduction to the most trusted law firm who can perform the legal due diligence, also on a deferred fee basis. So here's another kick-ass template that you can use and tweak according to your liking. As usual, you want to make sure you find the direct email address of the highest level decision maker within that law firm. And you want a trusted referral subject line. So really we're leveraging a mutual connection, a social referral, which is via referral first name. And then email body is hello name of common interest, referral first name, said it made sense for us to talk about how law firm name can best help us solidify a potential $25 million deal. We're currently in talks with a buyer who is looking to acquire our portfolio companies for up to 25 million. Hence, we require the following. 1. legal due diligence for the subsidiaries, 5 companies in total, that we are in the process of acquiring. 2, setup of SPV, special purpose vehicle, as a holdings company. Are you open to working on a deferred fee basis? Happy to send through a buyer's expression of interest letter. And 5, sale and purchase agreements as proof. So if we break down due diligence, there's 3 types of due diligence within step 10. There's tax/financial due diligence, so that's your accounting firm of choice that does that. And then the warm introduction to the law firm provides that legal due diligence. And then commercial due diligence, so looking at the potential of the business, are they really in a market that can grow, doing a SWOT analysis, or the traditional types of MBA talk or whatever. The buyer most probably has actually done this in advance before telling you that they want, like, let's say an IT services company or business services company doing 10 million to 40 million revenue per year. That's part of their commercial due diligence before they actually send you the expression of interest letter. Or what they will do is they'll do it much more in depth once they perform this level of due diligence for you in the future steps. Note, if any of the potential subsidiaries, for instance the sellers, the acquisition targets, are hiding any dangerous skeletons according to the advice you get from either from your accountant or from your legal team, then you want to notify them immediately. You want to refund their deposit, so for instance their 10k commitment fee. Have them exit the sale and purchase agreement accordingly, but of course you want to end off on a good note. You don't want any sort of crazy legal battles, hence that's why the law firm has your back throughout this whole process. Then you want to go forth to acquire another target. So go back to your waiting list of potential targets who perhaps would have been a great fit, but they happen to be the 6th yes or the 7th yes, but you're only going ahead and aggregating 5 targets. So go back to your waiting list and see who potentially could replace them and reignite another conversation, reignite another meeting to see if they would be open to joining the SPV again. So step 11 is you want to set up the special purpose vehicle. So setting up the holdings company that's going to be acquiring the 5 acquisition targets that have signed the sale and purchase agreements. So your micro deal team, so your CPA and your law firm, will help you incorporate the special purpose vehicle. And the purpose of doing this, pun intended, is to produce a legal moat, so a way to protect the whole deal and smart deal structure that prevents you, the 8-figure deal maker, from being kicked out of the deal. It also helps you acquire the subsidiaries superfluously, ensures this shareholders agreement and distribution is based upon the agreed multiple. So for instance, you want to start off saying, okay, you're going to take 20% of the deal, so you'll be a 20% shareholder in the SPV. The other 5 entities will share the 80% remaining equity, which means that's 16% equity each. You have 20%, so you're pretty much the primary shareholder and the primary decision maker with things, which is the way you want it because you're the one who's getting this whole deal together. Don't worry too much about the numbers. The accountant, the law firm will go ahead and have you back on that one. Just make sure you get that shareholders agreement solidified. And then step 12 is you want to consolidate the accounts. So don't worry, you don't have to be a hardcore CPA yourself. The CPA from your micro deal team will help you consolidate the accounts, which means getting all of the P&L statements, so all of the profit and loss statements of each of the subsidiaries, so each of the 5 entities, and putting it into one P&L statement. Each of the balance sheets of the subsidiaries, of the 5 subsidiaries, and putting it into one balance sheet. Because we're going to be using both of these documents, both of these awesome financial statements, to be able to really pitch to the big buyer. Which then leads us to stage 4, winning the deal. So winning the deal comprises of steps 13, 14 and 15. So step 13 is schedule and present the big meeting. Step 14, big buyer performs their due diligence. And step 15, you win the deal. So step 13, presenting the big meeting. What on earth do you say when you're in a room with private equity partners and you have to get up there and really tell them why your deal is the best thing since sliced bread? And here's what you need to do. You need to present the entire holdings group, the SPV, as a coherent joint proposition. The tools and the important documents you'll need are as follows. You need the consolidated account, so the P&L sheet that I was talking about, and the balance sheet of the entire holdings company. You need a pitch deck / slide deck presentation. I'll talk about that on future slides in terms of how to best break that up step by step. And you need to bring your winning smile and your high energy to get the deal done, because if you don't have high energy, if you're not excited to be able to help the big buyer make an informed decision to purchase your SPV, then it's pretty highly unlikely that you're going to be able to actually close a deal. So here are two good pitch deck solutions. Personally, I love using Google Slides, but you can also use Slidebean if you want a little bit of a head start. And what on earth do we include in the winning pitch deck? You want 10 core components, which you can set us up with 10 slides. And each of the slides has a big concept, big idea. And the first one being the big idea. So what's the one line benefit statement that really catches their eye, hits them in the heart, hits them in the head as to why this deal is the best thing since sliced bread. 2, what's changing? So the 3 market forces that are impacting the particular entity that you're pitching during the day. So economic, social, and technological market forces. 3, what's that significant problem that nobody else is solving that your SPV potentially can? 4, generic solutions. So what's everybody else, what's the status quo, the existing alternatives doing in the marketplace as we speak? 5, our solution. So what's your solution for the entire SPV, and how is it exactly what the buyer is looking for? 6 is value proposition. So value proposition isn't about features, it's always about benefits. So on behalf of the entire SPV holdings company, you want to mention the total staffing numbers, number of countries where you're present, total customers / database, any sort of patented IP, royalty agreements, total number of products, potential synergies / joint venture opportunities, and even cost-cutting strategies. You can bounce around a few ideas, like currently we have 4 different marketing departments. Imagine if we culminated all 4, only had 1 marketing department. There's an instant impact to the bottom line to increase the EBITDA, which means you can flip it much higher to the next trade by Mr. Private Equity. 7 is economics, so potential for gain. Mention total revenues and also annual recurring revenues. These are very important numbers when you want to be able to get a room full of private equity partners or big buyers really excited. 8, social proof. So mention like client testimonials from each of the particular subsidiaries that really endorses why they're a market leader. And media mentions, being featured in CNBC, whatever, doesn't hurt when you can mention that throughout your pitch because it gives you negotiating power. 9 is pricing. So you want to talk about the exclusivity basis of this deal. So even though it's first come first basis and that they originally gave the expression of interest letter, personally that you could go on to someone who's similar to their competitor and repitch the deal and actually get the ball rolling. So you just want to mention that you potentially have other buyers in process who are looking at it, but don't make this up, just be legitimate. If you don't have buyers in process, then don't worry too much about this step. So the final one is a call to action. So you need a way to be able to carry the conversation forward and collect a decision, a yes or no. A maybe means no, okay? So the best way to do this is to frame it with just one line question, which is how would you like to proceed? Or if you want to be really sort of direct, sort of Wall Street style, you can just say, are you in or out? That's it. And let them do all the talking. So let the buyer do all the talking, spend the next 20-30 minutes throwing back questions back and forth. But most of the time you would have already impressed them up until this point if you were able to get the particular big buyer up until paying attention to you for this particular stage. So once the buyer says, okay, yep, this sounds awesome, let's do it. You want to obtain a letter of intent from the big buyer. So a letter of intent is different to expression of interest. It's actually a lot more serious in the sense that they have the intent of purchasing this SPV from you. Of course, it's subject to due diligence. Step 14 is the big buyer performs their due diligence. So a lot of entrepreneurs always ask me, how long will due diligence last? I've seen entities be able to do that in a week, 3 weeks, 2 months. It really depends, and it depends upon how much urgency you built into the deal. But generally speaking, anything more than 2 months is just going to cause a lot of deal fatigue. So just keep that in mind. By deal fatigue, I mean that everyone who's involved in the deal starts to lose interest, they start to get tired, they start to doubt things. So just keep deal fatigue in mind, because that's really where a lot of your mindset, your perseverance, your courage is tested to the limit. And just avoid looking needy. So the problem with a lot of deal makers, entrepreneurs, what have you, is that when they don't hear any response, when things start to go slow, they start getting desperate for the deal and they start saying, okay, Mr. Buyer, we'll drop it down from 25 million to 20 million, or we'll drop it from 25 million to 10 million because we really want this deal to happen. Otherwise, you know, I won't become a millionaire. Like, if you start getting needy like that, you need to, one, just calm the heck down, and two, just pursue other deals that you may have in the process. So pursue other pending deals so that you eradicate neediness and let negotiating power, negotiating leverage work in your favor, because you owe it to the team. And by team, I mean you owe it to your micro deal team, you owe it to the 5 subsidiaries that have joined your holdings group to be able to create the best win-win deal for all parties involved. Step 15 is to win the deal. In order to really win the deal, finalize everything, you want to leverage your micro deal team to finalize the paperwork, the legal contract, and of course the transfer of ownership process to make sure it's a seamless transition. And once all is done and the buyer's wired, bank transferred you the money into your account, proceed to pay your micro deal team, so accounting law firm, your subsidiaries upon agreed share. Above all else, pay yourself and get yourself doing the following. So now we've summarized the 8-figure dealmaker system that comprised of 4 stages. So really getting your foundation all together. Stage 1, connecting with big buyers, your private equity firms, hedge funds even, family offices, trade buyers, etc. Stage 2 is aggregate the sellers, so aggregate the subsidiaries under that one holdings company. Stage 3 is to assemble the micro deal team, and then stage 4 is to win the big deal. So would you like me to personally mentor you to flip a $10 million business in 10 months or less? If so, connect with me on LinkedIn. Here's a link to my profile URL right here. I'll also include the profile URL within the description, but just connect with me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you saw this presentation and we can take it from there. So you may be wondering, how much can I really make with this business model? The short answer, the sky's the limit. In fact, the sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning. Let's break down some of the numbers. So let's say, for instance, you've got varying percentages of ownership within the SPV. And on the first column, I've got, your ownership percentage of SPV, so 20%, 15%, 10%. So that's in descending levels of ownership, so how much percentage that you own within the particular SPV. And then all the other columns explains the total exit amount, so what the buyer is actually willing to pay. So let's look at a $10 million deal. So let's say a private equity firm will buy your deal for $10 million, you own 20%, you'll make $2 million. But let's say you go, okay, well, I've got my $10 million deal down, I made $2 million, let's go ahead and really aim a bit higher. I'm going to do a $30 million deal, but I'll be a bit more generous and have 15% as my ownership. So I'll give away an extra 5% to the other subsidiaries. You'll still make 4.5 million. And then let's say your next step is, that's it, I'm going all out, I'm going to do a $50 million deal, and I'll be even more generous with only 10% ownership, and you make 5 million from it. So putting it all together, total profit equals 2 million plus 4.5 million plus 5 million equals 11.5 million, which is a huge amount of wealth that you created literally from nothing. And if you could achieve this in 1 year, 3 years, or heck, even 5 years time, would that be worth considering? Noting that all of this can be achieved without needing to do any of the following, which is you don't need to own and or operate any of the businesses or the subsidiaries that you have acquired and put underneath the SPV. You don't need to go ahead and raise huge amounts of capital, sell your soul to bankers, take on a huge amount of debt loans, or even sell your soul to venture capitalists. You don't have to already be connected to global elite or these multi-billionaires or multi-millionaires. You don't have to do any of that. You can literally start with like barely any connections, and you don't have to have like a Warren Buffett like crazy credibility on the Forbes list type of profile just be able to get these types of deals done. Now you may be feeling, so would you like me to personally mentor you to flip a $10 million business in 10 months or less? If so, let's get connected on LinkedIn. Here's a link to my LinkedIn profile URL right on the screen here, but also I'll leave it in the description. Just send me a connection request on LinkedIn, let me know you saw this presentation, and we'll take it from there. So just one more thing. So as promised, I was going to share with you as a bonus, my gift to you, a particular wealth creation strategy that very few people talk about, and it's taking it from Wall Street and bringing it to Main Street. And here's the top secret strategy, is that you want to acquire businesses at a multiple of EBITDA, which is what we spoke about, net profit. But here's the kicker, you want to exit at a multiple of annual recurring revenue, not exiting at a multiple like arbitrage of that EBITDA itself. So did that click? For most people who've either built and sold a business, or you're in the sort of MMA game, or you've read about doing sort of business deals or mergers acquisition deals like this, it would have had some sort of aha moment. And if you'd love to go ahead and 10x these aha moments, then if you'd like me to personally mentor you to flip a $10 million business in 10 months or less, so let's get connected on LinkedIn. Here's a link to my LinkedIn profile URL just on the screen. I'll also add it within the description, and we'll take it from there. So let's break it down. So let's say we aggregate 5 companies together that give us the following numbers. So total annual revenue is 10 million, and that's 5 companies doing, let's say, 2 million annual revenue. So similar to the previous example, but the EBITDA margins and net profit margins are 20%, so that's about 2 million. However, the annual recurring revenue, let's say 80% of the business, that, and by business I mean 80% of the revenue that goes into business, is actually recurring. So it's being paid like year after year. So let's say if this 80% is accrued, so 80% of 10 million is 8 million. So let's look at those figures, 10, 2, and 8 million. And the difference is night and day. Here's why. So if we look at the first column, we've got the exit multiple of 5, 8, and 10. So these are just basic numbers we're using as an example. However, if we look at the second column, we've got the exit amount based on EBITDA multiple. And then the third column, so column to the far right, is annual recurring revenue times the EBITDA multiple. And what you'll see is if we just use the exit multiple 10, just for simplification purposes, we've got, let's say, 2 million based on the EBITDA times 10 multiple gives you a $20 million exit, which is pretty darn good. However, if we look at on the far right hand side, we've got 8 million, which was the annual recurring revenue times 10 multiple, which gives you $80 million exit. Pretty much 4 times as much. So just stick with me, I'll explain why that's awesome. Now if you look at your percentage or ownership, so let's say if we use 20% as the example. So 20% ownership of that $20 million exit will give you 4 million profit. That's what your 20% is worth. However, if you go ahead and have an $80 million exit and you collect 20% of that, you will end up getting $16 million profit in your pocket. Yes, that's exactly what I thought when I was told this top secret by Wall Street investment bankers who I've had the honor of being able to be connected with and to be able to learn directly from. So difference is night and day. So which would you rather? A $4 million profit in your pocket, $10 million profit in your pocket? Even if you said, okay, $1 million profit in your pocket or $4 million, the difference is night and day. And I'm sure right now your mind is blown. So from everything we learned today, I'm sure it's a lot of information for you to digest. Like you most probably started or stopped a whole bunch of entrepreneurial ventures. Maybe you've had a ton of failures that worked or didn't work, and you've left yourself wondering, like, what's wrong with me? Why is it always me that's getting in the way of this success? Just know that everything that happens from today onwards is not a function of your fault. It's just a function of not having the right knowledge at the right time and executing it in the right sequence. But just know from here onwards, provided you execute the strategies within this presentation, it's your time. It's your time to shine, and it's your time to be able to kick some serious butt and just say screw you to all the past failures you had, or the people who told you it wasn't possible, and anyone who stuck a finger in your face that told you that you cannot succeed. It's your time. It's your time to shine. So a big thanks for everyone, including your awesome self, who's been able to listen to this presentation up until this point. And I'm curious, how did you go? Feel free to drop a comment below and share this video with fellow friends who are looking to make this year the absolute best year ever, because that's what it's all about, is when you win, we all win. So would you like me to personally mentor you to flip a $10 million business in 10 months or less? If so, let's get connected on LinkedIn. Here's a link to my LinkedIn profile URL, and I'll also include it into the description. But in the meantime, stay awesome, stay hungry, stay humble, and kick some serious butt, and I'll see you in the next presentation. Bye for now.